Hello people, welcome, this is Tsumugi, and as I promised, I was talking about making like a Tao video and to talk about Tao in general, and here I am. And today obviously you can see my face because I use my only camera to record whatever's on the table so you guys can see my army better, and there and that. So let's get right into it. So what is this about? What is this video about? Let's talk about briefly about why I started playing Tao. I originally started buying and like building and painting Tao because I kind of want like a mock opponent for my Terranid army list. And I heard like Tao is all about killing Terranids, right? They're pretty good at killing Terranids, specifically because they are actually pretty good versus infantry, and their gun line is pretty hard to deal with, only next to Imperial Guard. So that's why I bought Tao. Now, after actually carefully researching and then asking around and then watch some online materials, as well as talking to people who actually play Tao, I have come to a basic understanding of this faction. I have yet to play an actual proper game against any experienced player yet, so my understanding can be a bit off, but like I think overall the general direction shouldn't be all that too far off. Now, if you never played Tao before and you have absolutely no idea what all these units are, don't worry. I'm gonna walk through unit one by one and to explain what they do and how they actually perform on the battlefield, and then yeah, you can probably get like a better understanding. And I think this is like a kind of like a learning process for me as well, because this will be most likely the list I bring to my upcoming tournament, 1,000-point tournament. So yeah, it's a learning process for me as well to remember all the ins and outs. So let's get started. Now, first of all, let's talk about the sept I choose. Now, the sept, kind of like Terranid fleets, is like a chapter tactic army-wide rule that applies to everyone, right? So the sept thing, okay, so I choose the Tau sept. Now the Tau sept is like the most used selection for most players, because Tau sept, it has the ability, the special rule is they are allowed to overwatch on the 5+, which itself may not sound all that amazing until you realize that Tau is they have this thing called for the greater good. So basically, if you attempt to assault, let's say if you attempt to assault this squad of warrior, and anything within 6 inches can actually fire overwatch at the unit that charged at this squad of warrior, as if they themselves are getting charged. Now, of course, if they shoot overwatch with this ability, they are not allowed to shoot overwatch in the same charging phase, which doesn't really matter anyway, because if your core unit, such as Riptide over here, if it's really far behind that he's impossible to getting charged in the first place, might as well shoot some overwatch, right? And this, you can do this every turn, so you might as well. So that's why the Overwatch is pretty good. But moreover is that because they have access to a stratagem called Focus Fire. Now Focus Fire is really scary. This is also a reason why Tau is they don't exactly have like high strength weapons, but they can deal with high toughness targets such as Lehman Ross battle tank with no problem. Is because Focus Fire allows you to as soon as you wound a single unit, let's say you wound a Lehman Ross battle tank with anything, it could be Fire Warrior, it could be your stealth suit over here, it could be anything, right? As long as you cause a wound on a target, you can choose to activate a 3-point stratagem, okay, that allows the rest of your army in the Tau sept, of course, to have a +1 to wound roll against that target. Now you can see how scary this is, because with Tau and their high volume of shots, +1 to wound can mean a lot of different things. And their strength, while they don't have a lot of strength 9 or strength 10, except for maybe railguns, but they have a lot of strength 7, strength 5, strength 6-ish weapons, which, you know, they will wound toughness 4 and 3 on the 2+ and the 3+, and they will wound toughness 7 and 8 on the 4+ or 5+, which normally speaking doesn't sound all that great. But if you factor in this +1 to wound roll, it becomes super scary. Now the strength 6 weapon will wound a toughness 8 on the 4+, which is a drastic increase. Because with the volume of shot and you wound it on the 4+ and they have decent AP, it becomes really hard to deal with. So that's why I choose to use the Tau Sept. Now enough of the Sept, let's talk about the actual unit, right? So for the HQ, as you can see here, we have the Ethereal. Now the Ethereal is kind of like a caster unit. Well, Tau does not have any sort of psyker at all. We don't have any psychers whatsoever, right? We don't even get to deny. At least Necron has like Tomb Spider to like negates with like Gloom Prism, but like for Tau we have absolutely no way to deny second power or to use second power. But we do have a unit like Ethereal. Now Ethereal, while it does not cast any second power, what you can do is to invoke one of the 4 elements per turn. Now I'm only gonna say the only 2 elements that people use most of the time. We have the I think it's called like the Rage of Fire, and then we have the Dance of Earth. What basically the Rage of Fire, I think it's like yeah, I think it's Rage of Fire. What Rage of Fire does, okay, the name could be wrong, so like Tau probably can correct me if I'm wrong. The Rage of Fire basically increase. It allows you to reroll hit rolls of a 1 in shooting attack as long as you're within 6 inches of Ethereal, and if you did not move, you know, which majority of Tau unit don't move anyway, right? They don't really exactly move. So that's Rage of Fire, but that's not used very often. It's because we also have the ability called Konyun, and then we also have Monka, which I will get to later as soon as I start talking about Commander. Now the other one is called Dance of Earth, not Dance of Stone, I think. So what that does is it allows anyone within 6 inches of the Ethereal to have a 6-up Funeral Pain. Now 6-up Funeral Pain is very useful, especially on such as Fire Warriors or Riptides or other units. It's pretty useful. Not so much on the drones though, because the shield drones has like 5+ Funeral Pain to begin with. They don't exactly need the 6-up Funeral Pain, but by default, at the start of your movement phase, you get to invoke one of the elements, and the effect will last until your next movement phase, so it will endure through your entirety of your opponent's phase, your opponent's turn, I mean, and then what you basically do is get like a 6-up Funeral Pain, right? Or reroll ones to hit, because even in Overwatch, you get to reroll hit rolls of a 1 if you are qualified to do so. Say you're within 6 inches of Ethereal and you did not move, and enemy charge you, you get to fire Overwatch, you get to reroll the ones, which is pretty useful, right? Alright. So that's one of the ability that Ethereal can use, okay? And also, there's another ability that Ethereal can use is that as long as he's within 6 inches of any other unit, all the other unit can use his leadership over their own. So, you know, Fire Warrior is not exactly known for being brave. They have like 6 and 7 leadership. This Ethereal, on the other hand, has like leadership of a 9. So if you have Ethereal next to a bunch of Fire Warrior, you don't ever have to worry about failing like a leadership test. So that's pretty much what Ethereal does. And of course, the choice I gave, the Warlord choice I gave it to him is through Unity Devastation. Now, so Unity Devastation is probably like the most common Warlord trait you would pick for Tau, and that's because it allows you to nominate one enemy unit, alright? That's visible to the user, which is the Ethereal over here. It does not have any sort of range requirement, you just only have to see it. When you nominate a target, all shooting attack versus that unit coming from units that's within 6 inches of the Ethereal, when they roll a 6+ to wound, that attack becomes, the AP is improved by 1. So say if you are within, let's say these group of warriors are within 6 inches of the Ethereal, and they shoot a unit that's been nominated by the abilities through Unity Devastation. When they roll a wound roll of a 6 with their pulse rifle, which is strength 5 AP nothing, right? It becomes strength 5 AP 1, and so on, right? This is more useful on the Riptide, but we'll get to that later. So that's the Warlord trait. I gave it to him, and then I choose the relic. I think it's called the Purity nano chip thing. I'm not quite sure. Basically, what it does is like it allows you to reroll a hit roll, a wound roll, or a damage roll once per game for the Warlord himself, or for any other unit within 6 inch of the Warlord. But this is like a once per game thing, but you know, it's better than nothing. But that's not why you take this relic. The reason why you take this relic is because of its second ability. The second ability allows whenever your opponent uses stratagem, you roll 6+, and you'll get the command point for free. So this is basically the same as Kura's Aquila, and then, you know, so that's pretty good. So that's why I picked this relic. And mostly because Tau doesn't really have that good of a relic to begin with, so that's kind of like the closest thing you can pick. So that's pretty much it. I mean, there's others like the vector maneuver thing, that's pretty good too, but like in this scenario, I mean, Shadow Sun is a unique character. She can't take relic anyway, so like I have to give relic to my ethereal. It's not like I exactly have a choice here, so that's why I give it the Pure Tide nano chip. So that's pretty much it. So for the ethereal, I gave him 2 shield drones to accompany with. And since we're speaking of shield drones, why don't we talk about these little guys, right? So shield drones, like, what do they actually do? If you are not very familiar with Tau and you're fighting against them for the first time as a shooty army, you need to be careful of these motherfuckers, right? Because these guys, all right, they don't look very powerful. They look very unassuming, but they do have toughness of a 4. And they have 4+ armor save, 4+ invulnerable save, and they have 5+ feel no pain. So what does it mean? Okay, so let me explain how this shield drone works. All right, so let's say you shoot at my Riptide. All right, Riptide is toughness 7, 14 wounds, 2+ armor save, and 5+ invulnerable save, or 3+ invulnerable save if you use Nova Reactor, which we'll talk about that later. So let's say you shoot last cannon at my Riptide, right? And then obviously you have to go for the hit, you have to go for the wound. All right, so if you wound me before you even roll the damage roll, what happens is I can choose one of the drones that's within 3 inch of my Riptide, right? If there's drones within 3 inch of my Riptide, I get to roll a d6. Now, if I roll a 2+, okay, the last cannon wound, before you even roll any damage, the last cannon wound will get transferred to the drone that's within 3 inch of the Riptide. Now, what happens is, instead of rolling damage like usual, the drone simply take a single mortal wound. Yes, that's right. You don't ever get to roll for the damage roll for your last cannon. So your last cannon basically transfer from a potential d6 damage into a single mortal wound. Now, of course, drone only has 1 wound, so it would die immediately. But, like I said, they have 5+ feel no pain. So it's very highly plausible that not only the drone will take the hit and absorb your high damage weapon, anti-tank weaponry, into a single mortal wound, but we also get to save it by 5+ feel no pain. Well, I mean, 5+ is not exactly that good of a chance, but 5+ is certainly better than 6+ or nothing, right? So that's pretty much it. That's why drones are your #1 priority. If you're playing against Tau, and if you're like a shooty oriented army, you need to deal with their drones ASAP, because if you don't kill the drones and if you want to shoot at their big monsters with like blast cannons, rupture cannons, or, you know, bioplasmic cannon, doesn't matter what it is, if it has like tons of damage potential, the drones are gonna block most of them, you know. So you probably want to kill the drones first, make sure they're dead. But you know, that's kind of the point. You know, they want you to shoot the drones so they, the rest of their unit get to survive. So this is kind of like a, this is like a combo. This is like a really traditional Tau combo going on here. It's like, do you want to shoot at the drones, or do you want to, you know, to bet on the chances that maybe I will fail the 2+ and then the wound will actually go through, you know. So that's pretty much it about a drone. But most of the time, majority of the time, if you have weapon that can actually do efficient damage against drones, like small arms fire, such as bolters, auto bolt guns, and all the intercessor weapons are pretty good versus drones, especially the Vigilus detachment formation. They are really good against drones because like 40 shot of strength 4 AP1, they are all pretty good. All right, so just bear that in mind. So that's pretty much about the drones and the ethereal. Now let's talk about the Shadow Sun. Now Shadow Sun is a total different beast here. Now it's she, by the way. Shadow Sun is a she. It's a her. So what does she do? Okay, so what does she do? She has 2 fusion blasters, as you can see here. She has 2 fusion blaster. Now fusion blaster is basically like a 18-inch melta gun, so it's not. It's not all that crazy. It's just like 2 melta guns, not big deal. But what happened? What's more important about her is like she got -1 to hit right off the bat, so that's okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what she can do is she allows you to activate Monka or Konyu twice per game. Now, since we're on the topic of this, let's talk about like this is one of the another Tau gimmick that I need to talk about. Monka is the ability to that all commander get access to, right? But you can only activate this once per game. It doesn't matter when you activate it. You can activate turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, doesn't matter, but you can only do it once per game. Now, as soon as you choose one, you can choose either Monka or Konyu. If you activate either one, you are not allowed to use the one more again. Doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. You choose one and use it once per game. Okay. Now, like I said again, Monka allows you to move and advance anyone within 6 inches of the commander who activate Monka, and they can still shoot as if they did not move at all. Now, this is pretty important. This is very different from allow you to shoot normally. This is allow them to shoot as if they did not move, which means if you use your ethereal here to activate the Rage of Fire, which only allows you to reroll hit roll for 1 if you did not move, then it will matter because they are all treated as not moved. That's very important part for Monka. So Monka is basically like Tau. It's a shooty race, but overall, their weapons not that long. The range is not that long. Some of their weapons are like 30 to 36 inches. So if you're playing on the bigger table, you might need to use Monka to finish your opponents off, just because you want to get in the shooting range. And the other one is called Konyu. Now Konyu is the one that allows you to reroll all failed hits. Now for Tau, a race that only majority has like 4+ Blizzard skill, the ability to reroll all hit is very important. Now, if you want to use this ability, you are not allowed to move. All right, so you're and by the way, Konyu and Monka, you have to declare which one you want to use before you even start your movement phase. This is like at the beginning of your turn, you have to decide if you want to use Monka or if you want to use Konyu, right? So once you decide it, you get to start your movement phase, and if you activate Konyu, every unit within 6 inches of the commander who activate the Konyu are not allowed to move for any reason at all. So, but that's okay because you would prefer to stand still anyway. Just be careful, you don't want to use this in the turn where your opponent might actually get close and murder you, right? You don't want that to happen. So be careful when you use Konyu. Konyu is pretty straightforward, just like reroll all hit rolls of anything. Reroll failed hit rolls. So it's not just failed hit rolls of 1, it's reroll all. So that's pretty good. Now, what's so special about Shadow Sun? Okay, what she can do is she allows you to do the ability twice per game. So you can activate 2 Monka. You can activate Monka and Konyu, or Konyu and Konyu, or Monka and Monka. You can do it twice, okay? She allows you to do it twice per game. So you can basically, we usually use her to activate Konyu twice because if you pick Shadow Sun, it usually means that you want to sit and shoot. And if you want to play Farsight Enclave, which is if you pick Farsight, then you probably want to go with the Monka because the Farsight Enclave benefit from Monka a lot more. Now, of course, by the way, I have to say, Shadow Sun is Tau Sept exclusive, kind of like kind of like how Gilliman is exclusive to Ultramarine. So if you pick Shadow Sun, you have to play Tau Sept. So that's pretty much it. So yeah, she allows you to do the Monka or Konyu twice, and she has 2 fusion blasters, which is basically 2 melta guns. She has -1 to hit, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it about her. And also, since she's a unique character, she's not allowed to have any sort of relic, and her warlord trait is pretty it's kind of like whatever. So it's kind of like, yeah, usually she won't be a warlord. And yeah, yeah, of course she's less than 9 wounds, obviously, so she can't be targeted by normal shooting. She can only be targeted if there's a sniper fire. So yeah. And also, let's talk about her drones. Her drones are very different. As you can see, the color is actually different. Now the color difference is because normally the drones has like 4+ invulnerable save, right? Her drone actually has 3+ invulnerable save, all right, instead of 4+. And they still have the 5+ funeral pain, yada yada. And this is the, I don't want to like drop this. Okay, this is a special drone. This drone is called the command drone. Now what the command drone does is, as long as this drone is within 3 inch of Shadow Sun, Shadow Sun can once per turn, she can nominate a unit within 12 inch of herself to have a ability to reroll hit rolls of 1. Now of course you might ask, like, why bother taking this drone at all if you already have like Kongyun, which allows you to reroll all within 6 inch of the commander, as well as you have the Rage of Fire from the Ethereal. The reason why you do that is because sometimes there are times when you actually have to move, but you still want the ability to reroll 1. For instance, maybe after you finish all your chances to activate Kongyun, or if you just really have to move, and basically if you move you can't use the Ethereal's reroll hit rolls of 1. And the ability to reroll hit rolls is so important for Tau. And the command drone only costs like 6 points per model, by the way. It allows you to choose a unit that's within 12 inches of Shadow Sun, which it should be usually is one of the 2 Riptides, right? And then that Riptide get reroll hit rolls of 1, which is amazing, you know. And you can nominate every turn, so you can pick which one is more important. Maybe Gatling, maybe Heavy Burst Cannon is more important this turn, maybe Ion Accelerator is more important this turn. It's totally up to you. So, and it only costs like what, 6 points. So yeah, have at it, right? So that's pretty much it about HQ. Now let's talk about Troop. Troop are much easier and less complicated. As you can see, I have 2 squad of identical warriors. Now I give them markings. I give them like little different markings here, as you can see on their shoulder pad, like this. This warrior has like a, well, actually let me turn on the light a little bit, just like shed some light on this. Ooh. Okay, so you can see their marking. This is squad 2, this is squad 3, all right? I put them this on purpose because sometimes if you want to give them like different set of equipment, or not necessarily different set of equipment, maybe just like if you want to give them maybe a marker light or like pulse pistol or something like that, you might want to differentiate between squad and squad. And in this case, I put this guy. Okay, this is the, well, you could say they are sergeant, right? They are kind of like equivalent to sergeant. They are called Chevalier in the Tau culture. So as you can see that their shoulder pad is a little bit different color. Okay, so this guy actually has the marker light. Okay, the marker light is, I'll get to that later. This guy has marker light, this guy has nothing, and then that's why they're different. So that's pretty much it. The warrior, this squad of warrior has 2 drones accompanying them, and same thing goes with this one. So these 2 squads basically identical. And let's talk about the squad of warrior. The squad of warrior does not have drones to accompany them, but the leader does have a marker light. Now the marker light, how should I say this? The marker light is not very competitive to be played in this edition, to say the least. It's because the buff it provides is just pretty mediocre, and in order to get like the best buff, which is +1 to hit and shooting attack, it requires you to stack the buff up to like 5 times. Now how do you stack marker light? Basically a marker light is a weapon. It's a heavy 1 weapon, so it's like a one-shot weapon for a unit who carries it. It's a one-shot weapon, it has 36 inches, and if you hit, it doesn't do any damage. It basically just applies apply one stack of marker light on top of the target. Now, as I told you guys before, that Tau usually has like 4+ ballistic skill, you know, so applying marker light may not be as easy as you think, unless you're using some specialized units such as Fireside Marksman or like Fireblade. Then, you know, they have 2+ ballistic skill, then it's probably easier to apply a marker light. The reason why I give this Fire Warrior marker light is because it's like a 3 point I need to spend somewhere, and it just happens to be, you know, I have 3 point left, so I gave this warrior marker light just so this warrior can give reroll hit rolls of 1 to Lee's stealth suit, which allows me to introduce the stealth suit. Now, stealth suit, okay, stealth suit, they are pretty good, they are pretty special. They are infiltrator unit, okay, they can infiltrate anywhere on the map as long as it's not within the enemy deployment zone, and they are outside 12 inches of the enemy unit. Now this is very important because usually infiltration only happens, you know, you have to be away from the enemy deployment zone as well as the enemy unit. These guys are different. You can actually deploy them like right next to the enemy deployment zone as long as there's no enemy unit within it. So if we're playing like chapter approved 2018, and if you go, let's say if you go first, then you can actually deploy these guys right next to their deployment zone, even though you cannot deploy inside the deployment zone, but you can deploy right next to their deployment zone because he hasn't put down a single unit on the table yet. So you can deploy basically anywhere you want if you go first. So yeah, these guys are infiltrators. That's pretty cool. And also because they are toughness 4, they have 2 wounds per model, and they also have 3+ armor save, which is pretty good. Like 3+ armor save on a model like this. And if you put them in cover, they become 2+ armor save and like 2 wounds. They become so tough. They have the durability of an intercessor, and they have the armor save of a terminator. So that's pretty tough. And on top of that, they have -1 to hit. These guys have -1 to hit, toughness 4, 2 wounds, 3+ armor save, and they can infiltrate. So these guys are really, really good. If you're playing Tau Army, it will be a mistake to not take them. Now you might ask yourselves, like, okay, I play Tau to enjoy the gun line shooting style. Why do I want to deploy such a unit in the forefront of the combat? You know, like, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to send my stuff towards my enemy? And here's why. Because you can do something like this. All right, let me just like rotate my camera a little bit, like here. Okay, so you do know, like, okay, so if you're fighting like a horde, right? If you're fighting like a horde army that likes to charge, and you can infiltrate, what you can do is like this. You can spread them 2 inches apart. Okay, you can do this. And then you put the drone as well. The drone also count in this scenario. Okay, let's just say maybe they're a little bit closer. And then you put drones like this. Okay, let me just, all right. Okay, so you can basically form like a wall of impassable terrain, because the enemy cannot pass through your models. They have to deal with your model by shooting at them or killing them. But if you do this, if you spread out a wall like this at the very first turn, there is no way for them to deal with you until shooting phase or charge phase. All right, because in movement phase they're completely stuck. Imagine a group of gene stealers, or imagine a group like hormigons. You know, like I said before, they can deploy anywhere on the map as long as it's number 1, not in the opponent's deployment zone, and number 2, 12 inches away from the opponent's model. Now, given the current way to deploy in the chapter approved 2018, these guys can actually stick into your base. Well, not inside your base, but like right outside of it. They can spread a wall like this, and they basically deny that part of the map. You know, and even if we go second, right? Even if we go second and then we deploy second, what happens is you can still do this, but just not as close to the enemy. But you can still do this in the midfield. Now, in the only way for them to get through you is to shoot at you or to charge you, which, by the way, their -1 to hit also applies in melee combat. So, and all these stuff, all right, all these units combined, including drone, by the way, including the price of drone, only costs 104. So it's only 104 points. You get one super annoying, a wall of impassable terrain potentially. That also, by the way, they have fly keyword, so they can fly over the enemy model. They can retreat and still shoot. So they are just such an all-in-one unit, and you really have to take them. And also because they are super easy to paint, you know, they can you can paint them like they're relatively easily, and they got like super good result, and they look really cool. So yeah, just kind of like just a plus here. So that's pretty much it about like the regular stuff, like the Fire Warriors and the XV25. Let's talk about the big guys. All right, let's talk about the XV104 Riptide. Now, if you play against Tau before, or if you heard about Tau before, you must have heard of these two monsters. All right, XV104 is the main firepower main firepower powerhouse for the Tau army. Now, how does that work? Okay, so first of all, let me introduce you their armament. All right, their weapons. All right, the left one over here, it's a heavy burst cannon. Now, what heavy burst cannon is? It's a heavy 12 weapon, strength 6, AP 1, and 2 damage each, which doesn't look all that amazing, but there is ability that XV104 has. It's called Nova Charge. Now, Nova Charge is yes, one of the 3 effects. Number 1, it can increase your invulnerable save to a 3+, which, you know, they normally have 5+ invulnerable save, but you can increase it to a 3+ if you want to. Number 2, you can move in your charging phase. You can move 2d6 in your charge phase, which is kind of like whatever. But number 3, you can increase the number of shot. Depends on weapon. So for heavy burst cannon, it goes from heavy 12 to heavy 18. All right, and for the ion accelerator, it will start from D6 shot into solid 6 shot. All right, it will go from D6 to 6, and this will go from 12 to 18. So they will have such a high volume of shot that is strength 6, AP 1, and damage of 2. Now they are also allowed to. We are also allowed to give them additional set of like add-ons. You know, we can give them additional set of a little extra equipment. I'm not quite sure what it's called right now. I think it's called. I might have to look it up later, but it's kind of like a little attachment you can give it to them. So the one I give it to this guy is it's called the advanced targeting system and target lock, and I give this guy nothing. So because, you know, I'll explain why. This guy got advanced targeting systems because advanced targeting system allows all weapons armed by this model to have an AP increase by 1. So the heavy burst cannon right here, which is strength 6 AP 1, becomes strength 6 AP 2. And like I said earlier at the very beginning of the video, if you combine that with the focus fire stratagem, now I can actually wound the Lehman Russ on the 4+, and I also have an AP of a 2, right? I also have AP of 2, and if I happen to roll a 5+ with focus fire, and I will also trigger the through unity devastation ability from my warlord, which, you know, on a 5+ or a 6, the model who suffered the wound by this Riptide, which is within 6 inches of the ethereal, the AP will increase by another 1, so it will become AP 3. Now it's a strength 4. It's not strength 4. I will wound you on the 4+, and I also have AP 3. That's almost as good as last cannon, almost. And how many shot do I have? I have 18 shot. And yes, I have a ballistic skill of a 4. Riptide has a ballistic skill of a 4. But if I activate Kongyun by having Shadow Sun, I can do it twice per game. Then the probability of me hitting is much higher than you'd think. All right. And I didn't even say like the most important stuff. There's a specific stratagem you can use as Tau. That's only available to commanders, alright? So Commander Shadow Sun is a commander. Now, she has 2 Fusion Blaster, like I said. But Fusion Blaster, you don't usually get to use Fusion Blaster a lot. So what does that mean? Like, she probably spent most of her time sitting in the back, activating Kongyun, and just sitting there looking pretty most of the time. But in order to make her useful, you can actually activate a stratagem called command and control node, which sacrifice her shooting, which you're not gonna shoot with her anyway. Instead, sacrifice her shooting to allow a single battlesuit unit, which is, you know, either one of these. You allow one of the battlesuit unit to reroll all failed wound. Now this is very deadly. So basically, combined with Kongyun, you can have the ability to reroll all hits and reroll all wounds. Alright, so you can see where this is going. This is kind of scary. You get 18 shot, alright, you get to reroll all hits and you get to reroll all wounds. Alright, and this applies to anyone within 6 inch of the Commander Shadow Sun, as well as the Ethereal. So if you combine all these buffs together, these two are, all their damage are amplified by a truckload. Alright, so all these units you see here, alright, all these fire warriors, drones and like XV25. The reason why they're here in the first place is to support the Riptide. The Riptide is the actual star of the show. All right, they are so potent, they are so powerful, and they are so unkillable, big thanks to the drones. Now the drones will block the majority of the last cannon fire for them. And as for small arms fire, they have toughness 7, 14 wounds. Alright, 2+ armor save by default, alright, 2+ for fuck's sake, 2+ armor save by default, and 5+ invulnerable save by default. And if you want to activate their Nova Reactor, they can become a 3+ invulnerable save if they really want to. I'll bet, of course, every time they activate Nova Reactor, they have to take a single mortal wound, and that mortal wound cannot be saved by drones. So too bad, you know, like that's kind of like the cost for using Riptide, but that doesn't matter because you can activate another stratagem called Stimulus Package. Basically, well, now that's Obama shit. I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's a stimulant injection. Basically, it allows a single battlesuit to only use the top row of their damage table, their degrading damage table. So it doesn't matter how damaged they are, you can only use it. You can use it once per turn, and it's only like what, 1 CP, so you can like bump one of the dying Riptide to its full combat capability every turn, basically, by spending just 1 command point, which is very cheap. So Riptide is going to be a super headache for your opponent. Now, what else am I missing? Oh, of course, I totally forgot. Now, the Riptide, alright, the Riptide, usually you will give both of them target lock. Now, what target lock does is it allows you to move the model and still shoot your heavy weapon without any penalty. And as you know, that majority of the weapon they carry are heavy weapons. Okay, the heavy burst cannon and the ion accelerator are both heavy weapons. The missile pod is, I believe, is also, a missile pod is actually, no, it's actually smart missile system, my bad. They both have smart missile system. Each model is armed with 2 smart missile system. Now, smart missile system, I'll just call it SMS for now on. It's a heavy 4 weapon. So basically each of them has like 8 shot of them. What's so good about SMS is like it does not require any sort of line of sight. So you can actually use it to shoot at target that tries to hide, such as like the mortar crew or like maybe Gaunts that's hiding in cover, and maybe Hive Guards. You know, that's why Hive Guard is never a threat to Tau, because we can always use like our SMS to shoot at them, because of course the range is the range is much shorter. It's only 30 inches, but that doesn't really matter because these guys can move and shoot normally anyway. So they don't really care, right? Because they have target lock. And that's why I want to specifically say why I did not give this guy a target lock, and for a reason too. Because first of all, I don't have point anymore. You want to have a healthy amount of drone in order to maintain the survivability of your XV104, all right? You want about at least 10% of your total point cost spent on drones. and specifically shield drones. All right, preferably shield drones. All right, so this command drone thing does not count. This guy does not count. You only count the shield drones. All right, the point cost of shield drone, which is 10 point per model, except for this one, this is 11 point per model. The point cost of all your shield drone has to be add up at least. All right, I'm not talking about at most, I'm talking about at least. It has to be at least 10% of your entire army's worth. So in this case, in this 1,000 point list, I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So I have just the right amount. All right, I have just enough of drones to withstand the enemy firepower. Preferably, if I can get drones for these this squad of warrior, that would be great. But I'm really out of point right now. I'm trying to squeeze anything I can. I even take the target lock away from this guy. So that's the biggest thing I can do for this, because I cannot take the target lock away from this, because this guy with the heavy burst cannon, it actually are expected to move around and to shoot people at the late game, in the late stage of any game, because this is what's gonna happen if you play a list like this. You will know like your fire warrior, your drones, and your XP25 are all expendable at the end of the game. All right, let me just like, this is what you're gonna left with. This is going to be what you're left with. Okay, maybe not even this, like the drones are all dead basically. At the end of the game, you're going to live with basically just this. Just your ethereal, your shadow sun, and a command drone, maybe a command drone, right? Because yeah. And 2 Riptide. And this is like perfectly normal, because first of all, drones are consumables, right? As long as they take damage, and if they didn't pass their 5+ pain, they're dead. They're just consumed for the sake of your Riptides, right? And Fire Warrior are not exactly like the toughest troop choice ever. They have like toughness 3, and they have 4+ armor save. Much better than Imperial Guard, I guess, but like still they're pretty weak as in terms of survivability. They die pretty fast. They cost 7 point per model, not 4 point per model, yada yada. So you know what I'm saying. So these guys gonna die pretty fast. And XP 25, they do have a little bit more survivability, but all in all, since they're going to be spawning in the opponent's base, sorta like they're gonna be deployed somewhere close to your opponent, so they're gonna die pretty fast too, or at least die trying, right? They're gonna die trying to stop your opponents from full maneuvering their entire army. They're gonna try to attempt to glance the opponent, so you can activate focus fire with just 3 CP. So these guys are pretty good, but they're still gonna die anyway. So this is what's gonna be left on the table usually when it comes to like the actual good fight. If it's like experienced player versus experienced player, then this is what Tau usually end up with, just 2 XP 104 with the commanders. Obviously, because commanders are characters, they can't be shot at normally, and they will be sitting behind the XP 104, so they can be shot at. So that's pretty much it. So yeah, and that's pretty much it about the Tau army, I think. And this is going to be the list I will bring to my local tournament for 1,000 point, and I'll see how it goes. This is like a very brief understanding of me. It's a very brief understanding of the Tau. I think that's as far as I know. And how do you actually combo them? How do you actually use all the combo? Are a complete different story, and I'm looking forward to talk more about Tau, because like Tyranids, I like Tau as well. They are pretty fun to paint as well as to play, because like the playstyle is so different from Tyranids. Now whereas Tyranid, it's about the whole swarm mentality of just like, instead of relying on like a 1 or 2 unit, you actually rely on like a huge blob of Gene Stealers and Hormigons in order to achieve your goal. Whereas in Tau, it's complete opposite. It's actually, you rely on 1 or 2 of the super strong unit, and the rest of your army is just there to support them. So that's pretty interesting concept for me, and I actually enjoyed playing a list like this. So that's pretty much it, and let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, like, whatever, and let me know what you guys want to know next. I also do Imperial Guard, I also do Death Watch, maybe Dark Angel coming soon, and Ultramarine as well. So if you guys enjoy videos like this, please let me know. If you don't enjoy videos like this, please let me know why, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.